All right, I'm allowed to talk now.
You're allowed to talk now. Hey, guys, this is Jennie. So let's say welcome to Jennie. Yay!
All right. Yeah. Hi. So this is really bizarre. I haven't stood up in front of people for over 10 years. But I used to teach in Japan. But it's like I say, it's been a long time. So I'm a bit nervous. So bear with me, and I shall do my best. I'm not going to be quite as natural and confident as Ashley, but that was really good, actually. It was really good for me to see from sort of the author's perspective, because I don't really get to see that very often, and I don't really do any kind of developmental editing at all. It's like too much. It's like I can see things that are wrong, but how do you go about changing that? That's frightful, and it sounds like a lot of work, and I'm not surprised that a lot of people then come to people like me to do the polishing because you've already done a lot of work. So I'm going to talk about some self-editing tips though for you to do before you send it to editors if that's what you decide you want to do, because the more editing you do, the less you pay us, which isn't good for me, but it is good for you, and that's obviously, you want to save money where you can, right? So I've given you a list of self-editing tips. We're not going to do all of them, so I'm going to flash by some of them. But if you have questions about those later, before we break for lunch, then perhaps you can ask those, and I'll give you a bit more information about them. But most of them are sort of, well, some of them are self-explanatory. I'm going to pick out the ones, because we've got a little exercise to do. It's not a test.
No grammar test. Oh, man.
It's not a test. It's just a little practice run. I'm going to give you a little story later with some errors that I put into it, okay? So you get to see if you can spot the errors. Yeah. And I'm mainly going to focus on the ones that I've actually used in the example. So that's going to help you a little bit to find them. So yeah, let's get started.
You found it.
There's a theme. I'm just going to make sure you were listening to Ashley. So right, you finished your edit. You finished your book. You've done your developmental edit, and you're happy with it. Like, what should you do now? How long for?
A month.
At least a month. Okay, I'm going to argue on that one. No, I'm not. But yeah. So after you finished your draft, you want to take a break, and I've got give yourself at least 2 weeks. I'm going to go with month is probably going to be better, to be honest, because the further away you're from it, the better you can, be, the more objective you can be. So you'll approach with fresh eyes, and I'm not going to go through all of this, and you'll be able to find these inconsistencies. Okay, now this one is important. This one might come up. This one will come up. Right, so are you familiar with dialogue tags? Right, give me an example of a dialogue tag.
She said.
Okay, she said. All right, give me another one.
He asked.
She asked. Okay, these are good. All right. Can you nod, shrug, smile words?
Yeah.
Can you? Are the words coming out? And then, so can you actually do it? If I nod, am I saying anything? So you have to be careful to make sure that the ones you're using as dialogue tags are actually things that people can say. Okay, you might get away with someone sneezing a word at you, or they might say something when they're trying to do it, but you wouldn't be able to sneeze a whole sentence or anything like that. So the ones you want to stick with are usually said, asked, replied, whispered, shouted, mumbled, and yelled are all also perfectly fine.
That actually made me very happy when I saw that, because I always say, like, I never know about shouted or mumbled or something, because I'm like, oh, it's just got to be said or asked.
Well,
and I saw that, but that's the way that you say it. It strikes me.
Well, yeah, but I would say for the majority of your dialogue tags, we try, and as copy editors, I didn't give you any background about me, but I've got a blurb on, you can look at lunch and try and read it as it goes, scroll around. But anyway, what we would usually say is keep away from the obviously anything like this. Just leave those there. But you don't want to use these ones too much either. They're fine, but if you keep it like this, then the reader will they won't become a thing. It will just, go in, and it will make it easier for the reader to read, to be honest, if you keep them simple. So you probably know that already. But this is something to look out for. And a lot of authors do it as well, like wanting to make it sound more interesting, whereas said and asked is absolutely fine. Okay. Why isn't it moving? Okay.
Yeah, you gotta click it a couple times because it thinks that it's like got extra things.
Maybe I had extra lines in there or
It
something.
could be.
Got it. All right. I kind of want to talk about all of them. I want to tell you, but I'm running out of time already because somebody went over.
No, go ahead, go. Take what you need.
Okay. Are we familiar with that as a conjunction and when to use it, when not to use it? I'll give you a couple of examples just quickly so that you can see, because I don't think this one's in the test. It's not a test. So here you've got the that as a conjunction. He told me that he was busy, but if you say he told me he was busy without the that, it's exactly the same meaning, so it's totally fine to take that out of that sentence. Okay? In the next one, it was obvious that she was younger than him versus it was obvious she was younger than him. So again, it's perfectly fine to leave that out. So we don't want too many that's, but sometimes you're going to need them for clarity. So for example, this one, I've heard that you snore versus I've heard you snore. Now these are going to be used and they have different meanings, okay? You can see the difference in the meanings, right? Does everyone see them? Yeah. So you've got to keep it in this one if you want that meaning to come across. I've heard, someone told me that you snore, right? So that's when it's important to keep that in the sentence. All right, now strong verbs. Copy editors don't like. You may have heard that copy editors do not like adverbs. And why do we not like them? Because it usually indicates the presence of weaker verbs, and you're kind of it weakens the whole story really for the reader. So, you've got to look for stronger verbs. This one might be in the test. I've got to stop calling it a test, it's not, it's a practice. So, are your characters, are they running quickly when they could be sprinting? Are they walking cautiously when they could be tiptoeing? Are they speaking quietly when they could be whispering? And are they speaking quickly when they could be blurting? So it's those kind of things that you need to look for in your writing. See if you can strengthen the verbs to make it more interesting, stronger story, better for the reader to relate to. All right. Oh, I put one for you. What could you put here? She walked quickly to catch the bus. She ran to catch the bus? Yeah. Anything else? Sorry? Sprinted, hurried, yeah, that kind of thing. So that's great, yes. Lengthy monologues. Okay, so I don't have anything in the practice for this, but just to give you an idea, whenever people are talking, even if they are talking for a long time, they are not just talking, okay? They could be looking around the room. They could be looking down at their notes like me. They could be taking a sip of water, okay? So people don't just talk. They're moving their hands. They're walking around. They're doing things. So when your character is giving a long monologue in your book, have a look. Are they just talking, or could there be something that they're doing? Could that be added in to make it sort of a bit more interesting? You look a bit confused. Do you have a question?
I was wondering if it's important what they're doing, or if they could be doing anything.
That depends on what you want to convey. Yes, it could be, because if you scratch your nose, you could be like indicating that they're telling a porcupine a lie. Do you know porcupine?
No. I'm like, I gotta know about this now.
Oh my gosh, I do come out with some things that are really typically British. And so in England we have this thing called Cockney rhyming slang, which is like it's traditionally the East End of London, and they will talk about things like in rhyming slang, and it rhymes with the word that it means. So porcupine, lie, dog and bone, phone, and that kind of thing. So so they'll have like conversations using that, and the idea was people wouldn't understand, but now most of us would in England. So, yes.
When is it too much? Like when you put too many of those?
I've heard that too.
Ah, that's a good point. That is something you'd have to be able to check to see sort of, you've got to kind of balance it, yeah. So you wouldn't want to put in too many. So not in every, so you could do like a few bits of dialogue, then, you know, a little action and then some more dialogue. But you don't want it after every single piece of dialogue. Do you have any input on that?
I was just going to say, this is when I usually see like my characters talking for a long time. I will actually, because I'm so light on scene and character descriptions, I might like talk about something that's in the scene that they're doing. You know, like if there's a cup that means something to them, but it needs to have purpose to it as well.
Yeah.
But do like, you know, like as she's talking, like you know, she picked up her favorite, you know, flower water mug or something. I don't, but you know what I'm getting at. But it means something as you're interjecting it. But like she said, not to.
Yeah, you don't want to overfill them
Yeah.
with actions, but it is something. If they're doing an action beat, these are different beats to story beats. I will come to action beats in a minute, but if you're doing like an action beat, then in between their dialogue, then it does have to kind of mean something in relation to what they are talking about or their feelings. It's going to indicate something to your reader. Because if you put something in, have you ever heard of Chekhov's gun in theatre? You know, if it's mentioned in Act 1, it needs to come up in Act 2.
Yeah.
So it's that kind of thing. If you mention something in a story, you've got to have reason for that. So it's not, you don't want to throw in random stuff, but it just, you know, what are they doing whilst they're talking? Think about it. What are they doing? Are they sitting? Are they standing? Did they look out the window, perhaps? Or, you know, what it helps to build the picture as well. Okay, does that help?
Yes.
Okay. All right, next up. Oh, what else could they be doing? Any suggestions?
Blowing their nose.
There you go, blowing your nose. Any more?
Eating oatmeal.
Eat. Possibly.
That was something that one of my characters was doing.
They did well, be.
And I cut it.
Oh, did you?
No oatmeal. No oatmeal for these people.
Oh, all right. No, I'm going to just hit this several times then. Oh, there we go. Removing redundancies. All right. So, can you shrug any part of your body other than your shoulders? No. And can you kick any part of your body except like with your feet? Or you can only kick your foot, right? You can't kick your hand. That's just strange. So,
I mean,
when you're
because you were really flexible.
well, I meant if you do that, yeah. But you can only do it with your foot.
That's
So
right.
do you know what I mean?
That's right.
So when you're going through at the copy editing stage, you're going to identify and eliminate any redundant phrases or descriptions. Okay. So, like the examples, she kicked the ball with her foot. We don't need with her foot, and it becomes she kicked the ball. Okay. And the same one. Oh, he clasped the paper in his hand. What about that one?
Take off in his hand.
Sorry.
Take off in his hand.
Yes, take off his. Yeah. So he clasped the paper. Yeah.
So no body parts.
Yeah. So, all right, remove repetition.
Unless he's clasping it in his teeth or something.
But,
Holding the paper in his teeth. For whatever reason. I'm being silly.
I mean, he could, I
Maybe
suppose.
like clenching, not
There you go.
clasping.
Yes.
There you go.
Thank
That's
you.
better. I like that.
Okay, I'll quickly go through removing repetition. So it's not just about having words taken away that have been duplicated. It's also about avoiding repeating unnecessary information. So, for example, very often what authors do is they will repeat the dialogue in the narrative like this. Hello, Rebecca greeted me. We don't need both of those, right? We know what hello is, so we don't need that. I would like to explain. David felt the need to clarify. Yes?
To identify who said it.
Yeah, but you can use a dialogue tag or an action beat. You don't have to say the same thing. So you can say, hello, Rebecca said. So, yeah, so that you're not repeating the same, she greeted me. Or you could just say, Rebecca greeted me. Or Rebecca said hello. Something like that. Just keep it simple. Make every word count, okay? I would like to explain. David felt the need to clarify. So again, it's the same thing. he has to explain, he has to clarify. It's the same thing, so you don't need to say both. And then another type of repetition relates to the adverbs again, those adverbs that we copy editors love. He yelled loudly. Okay, you can see what's wrong there, right? And he briefly summarized. So a summary is a brief version. So again, you don't need to have both of those things. So have a look for those. I ended up going through all of them. Sorry, I'm and this is too much fun.
I know you get out there and start talking.
I know,
you're
and I'm like,
oh,
I've got all these things I've got to talk about. I can't miss any out now. Okay, so minimize unnecessary timeline nudges. This actually will come up in the thing, okay? So, one to look for. Timeline nudges are when you're referring to time moving. So like then, or after, or before, or something like that. We don't need to tell the reader, like, X happened and then Y happened, okay? They know. So you could say X happened and Y happened. I do have a caveat for this, by the way. And the reader will understand that Y happened after X. You don't have to and then, or after they did that, they did this. You don't need to have all that information in. So she finished her breakfast and then went for a walk becomes?
She finished her breakfast and went for a walk.
Yeah, nice and straightforward. Now, I recently did a book that was, I do copy editing and proofreading for Macmillan Publishers, and I recently did one, and the whole way through, it was then. She didn't use and, she just said then. So da-da-da, then did this. Da-da-da, then did that. And all the way through, I was the proofreader, so the copy editor had gone, change to and? Change to and? Change to and? No? And she was like, no, keep it. So you can use this as a style choice. At the end of the day, I want to stress that these are things that copy editors, proofreaders, many copy editors will look for, things you should be aware of, but you can still, as an author, make style choices for many of these and say, I want to use then. That's my style of writing, I like it. And you get to override the decisions of that because it's your book. All right? So I better put that in there. So yeah, there we go, style choice. As you know, Bob. Do you know this? Ever heard of As You Know, Bob? So this is a big copy editor thing. I'm keeping up with your buttons.
I know sometimes the buttons don't work. I just use the clicker.
Yeah, I'm just going to use the. No, I know the button. I'm using the button. I'm not going to use the flipping mouse anymore. Right. So it's also called maid and butler dialogue, and it's serving too much information, basically. So imagine there's some characters on the page, and they all know each other, and they all know the information that's being discussed. So the only reason that information is being given is purely to tell the reader. And I'll give you an example. So I heard your wife, Rebecca, is learning the piano. Now these two people in the room both know who that person's wife is. There's no need to mention the name as well as wife, okay? So you could say, I heard Rebecca is learning the piano. And then you could have, if you want to clarify that piece of information, that she is the wife. Yes, my wife is a very talented woman. And so it makes the dialogue sort of more natural, and it still gives the information out to the reader that you want to convey, but it doesn't sound like weird. Okay? And it doesn't sound like a weird conversation that people who already know that information would have. Does that make sense? All right. Vocatives. Do we know what vocatives are? Okay, so this comes up in the practice, being kind by telling you what to look for. So this is just using people's names. So when we're normally talking to each other, we don't tend to use our names very often. Might introduce ourselves, but generally you don't say them very often in a conversation, especially if there's only two of you. If there's three of you or more, and you wanted to get one person's attention, instead of repeating the name, you could have someone tap them on the shoulder, or I can't think of another thing. That's what I've got down there. Oh, nudge them, tap them on the shoulder. Yeah, or might look at someone. So you could perhaps say they looked at so-and-so, instead of just using the name in the dialogue, which is kind of unnatural. So yes, use dialogue tags and action beats instead. Is that clear? You'll find a nice little example of it in the practice run, so that's good. So action beats. Do we know what action beats are? Go on then.
Well, okay. In my short story class, what we say that action beats are is like in like a fight scene or something, when somebody is doing something and then doing something different, like physically.
That I think is more like a story. Is that not more like a story beat?
Yeah, that's probably a little something different than what she's talking about.
No, it's fine because it's
No, I
there's
know
so
what
many
you're trying
different
to talk
terms.
about, like where they are switching actions or doing something like that. Yeah. No, that's a little different than what you're talking about.
Yeah, no. So this is a different action beat. So this is literally an action that happens while people are speaking. So what did I just do when I was speaking? Yeah. She did jazz hands while she was speaking. Okay, so that was my action beat whilst I was doing that. And that's what you will help describe the environment that's happening whilst the person is speaking. Okay? And it makes them more three-dimensional as well, because you get more image, not just the words that they're saying, but what they're doing whilst they're saying it. So that's kind of nice for readers to picture and see what's going on. So again, let's see. Actions that happen while people are speaking, they enhance the dialogue, provide context for who is speaking, and let's look at an example. So Michael frowned. So we know he's saying he's frowning and then says, "What do you mean?" What do you mean? Okay, but he's not frowning and saying it as in he's frowning and saying it. He frowned and then he said the words. And so for that reason, this dot period is very important. It's not a dialogue tag. If it was a dialogue tag and he said, Michael said, comma, what do you mean? That's a dialogue tag. Okay?
And that's a bad one.
Yeah, it's like, Michael asked, what do you mean? Okay, but because he's doing an action, you must have the period there. It does not go in the comma before the dialogue. All right?
So it should say Michael frowned and asked, what do you mean?
You could say Michael frowned, and you could say and asked, what do you mean? Yeah, you could do that. And then it would be a comma.
Yeah, because he just can't frown the words, what do you mean?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Is that clear? Yep. Okay, there's another one. Rachel scratched her nose. Is it raining? So she's doing something and then asking a question. That's her action beat. So what's your character doing while speaking? Any ideas? Picking up a cookie is similar to what we talked about before, putting down a coffee cup, something like that. Ooh, scratching a body part. So, I've already talked about it, but there's a little slide here talking about the difference in the punctuation. So, the comma and the period. Action beat, John sniffed. I don't agree. I don't agree. Okay? Or, I don't agree. John sniffed. Okay? So, it doesn't matter whether it comes after or before, they are separate sentences. All right? Whereas if we do a dialogue tag, Rachel said, comma, I have to go now. And if it comes after, I have to go now, comma, Rachel said. Okay? So that hopefully makes it a bit clearer. Past tense, the present tense. Yeah, so you hopefully have, by this point, decided which tense we're using in your story. However, what you do need to do is when you're checking is make sure that it is consistent. And you might find that if you've written it in the present tense, you might want to change it to the past or vice versa. So when you go through your checks, make sure you're happy with the tense. And there's some things that will help you with the present tense. It's more immediate, it brings more intensity, makes the reader feel really like in the story. They're there, they're going and experiencing it as they go kind of thing. But it can be difficult to write, especially for the whole book. It could be like a little sample where something happens, like a dream sequence or something, I don't know. But the whole book, I have actually edited one like that before, and I went, whoa, it's very stressful. But it can be good if you like that kind of thing. And past tense, most novels are written nowadays in the past tense, so it's more accessible for everyone. Readers are used to reading that, and it's easier for authors to write. But either way is fine. When you're checking at this point, really, you've got to just make sure it's consistent throughout, unless it is some kind of, dream sequence or some other thing, flashback to the past, so you're in the present most of the time, and then you flash back to the past, and that becomes past tense.
And character thoughts too can fall into the present. Like
Yes.
if you that's what I did with mine, is I italicized my
Actually,
thoughts.
that's a good point. Yeah, thoughts are often in the present, and they would be italicized. Yeah. Contractions. Oh, this one might come up in the practice exercise later. So, contractions. Do you know what contraction is? Give me an example of a contraction.
I can't.
Yes, you can. Oh, sorry. Okay.
I can't and I won't.
Yeah, exactly. It's fine if you are doing like a book that's in a sort of period era, or whatever, like the different era to what we are now, basically. Period drama or something, But like even King Charles uses contractions these days. So, it's really unnatural to not use a contraction. So I highly recommend shouldn't rather than should not, haven't rather than have not, and won't rather than will not, etc. Yes.
Is that just for dialogue or throughout your
Throughout the
writing?
narrative as well. Yes. Yeah, it's just much more accessible. It's much more natural for people to read. Yeah. Okay. Character descriptions. This is fun. So, I think you mentioned this about info dumping. So when you're looking at your characters, avoid info dumping on the descriptions of them. So you might, you want to give all the information of what they look like. Hair color, eye color, skin color, everything. Waist circumference. Actually, men do. Be careful of this if you're writing about women. But men tend to have that sort of thing when they write about women.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it's one of the things that comes in. You're like, really? Is that all we are to you? So yeah, just be careful of that one. But yes, so it's better to drip feed the description if you can, and weave it into the narrative. So let's see if I can give you an example. Let's say, it's not a long one here, but this is just an example of what you could do instead of just writing a tall, dark-haired man walked into the room. You could break it up like this. The man ducked his head slightly as he walked through the door. Okay, so it's telling you he's tall, because otherwise he's going to hit his head. But it's doing it in a different way, and it's much more interesting for the reader to read that way. And then maybe later you could say his dark hair was damp from the rain or something like that. So you know that he's got dark hair. Okay? So drip feeding it in is nice.
I forgot to ask in number 13.
Yeah.
What about, I don't know if this is a contraction, but something like gonna instead of going to?
You can. That would be
That's the only
in dialogue
dialogue.
only. Yeah. Yeah. All right. Any questions about my drip feeding of descriptions? Overuse of stage directions is another one that comes up quite a lot when you're editing, and it's really when you're going through, look at your descriptions about the room, okay, or about the scene, or about whatever the environment is, whatever's happening even. I'll come back to the questions I've got in a minute. So I'll read this to you. He opened the car door, climbed into the driver's seat, shutting the door behind him. Putting on his seatbelt, he put the key in the ignition, turned the key until the engine sprang to life, then put the car in gear, released the handbrake, and pulled away. Isn't that kind of dull?
Not kind of.
We all know how, even if you don't drive, you know how it goes, right? So all you need to say is he got in the car and drove away. You don't need all of that. And so This one, how about this one? She opened the door, stepped inside, and closed it behind her. What could you say instead?
She went inside the house.
She went inside the house, yeah. Anything else?
Close the door behind you.
Yeah, or just she entered the room. So keep it simple, you know. You don't need to tell people how to do things that they know how to do. Okay? The only time that you would need to, make every word count. It keeps coming up, you noticed. Make every word count. The only time you would need to give a description, a lengthier description of what's actually happening, is if something unusual happens to interrupt that. So if he got in the car and then someone jumped up and whacked him on the head, just after he's turned the key, then you need to know that information or something, right? But otherwise, no. So, is that clear?
Something somebody told me once that also helped was you don't always have to show the ride, like the car ride.
Yeah.
Like you could just say they got from A to B. You don't have to say like they went in the car and on the way.
Yeah.
I used to do that.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes it helps to give like a little timeline, bit of information about the timeline. It just really depends on the situation. Yeah.
Well, sometimes for me it was like you have like very short dialogue in that car ride, and it's just like they got in the car, they turned on the radio, talked like 2 words, and then they got there, and then it doesn't really help, and also can they really get there that quick?
Yeah.
Like, the
Yeah.
pacing isn't really.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, definitely. Okay. Some more tips on language use. Tentative language. So when you're checking your book, check for tentative language. Are you using that? Do you know what it is? I'll give you some examples. Frank goes to switch off the light. And you can replace that with Frank switches off the light. Okay? Rachel started to stand up. What could you replace that with? Exactly, yeah. Okay? He began to run toward the finish line. What could that be?
He ran to it.
Yes, he ran toward the finish line, okay? So, again, make every word count. The only time that you would use the tentative language is if they're interrupted doing it again. So, Rachel started to stand up, but the pain shot through her ankle. Then you would use that, okay? I'm doing all right, doing all right, because we won't have time for the practice test.
Yes.
All right, we're nearly there. Avoid too much description. This is the one that I was thinking of earlier. So, include only relevant details. Often the reader will want to sort of imagine things for themselves as well while reading the book. So they don't want to know I know as an author you want to go, I have this picture in my mind and I want to convey this and put it out, and I want everyone to see the same thing. But no one's really ever going to do that. And so readers enjoy it. They like to be able to sort of imagine things as well whilst reading your book. So avoid unnecessary description and consider these questions. Do your readers really need to know the precise location of the couch in relation to the window? They don't. There's a couch, there's a window. Who cares? Unless it's part of a specific storyline or plot line, or it's some reason why they have to be located in a certain place, you don't need to mention it. Okay? Is the colour of the curtains adding anything? Maybe it is. Maybe it's important to your story, and there could be a reason why. But if there isn't, and it's not, then you don't need to include that kind of information. Okay? Make every word count.
Just like let it rest. This is going to be your
Your
Let it
mantras.
rest and make the words count.
Any stickers for that?
It's fun, isn't it?
We should totally make editing t-shirts just about those two things.
Yes.
Let it rest.
Make every word count.
Maybe one in the front, one in the back.
Yes. Yes. Okay. Sorry, really liking that idea. Okay, chapter endings. This is probably more of a developmental thing, but it doesn't hurt whilst you're checking, the copy editing things, to make sure that your chapter endings are effective. Okay, so there are different types of chapter endings you can have. So we've got cliffhangers and we've got foreshadowing, and these keep readers engaged. So cliffhangers, you know what a cliffhanger is, and they will keep the reader engaged. However, you don't want one on every chapter, okay? Not only would it be a lot of work for you to write a cliffhanger at the end of every chapter, but it also can be quite hard for the reader to keep that energy, or to keep, it's just exhausting after a while to have that at the end of every chapter, especially if you have a lot of chapters. And now the trend is to have a lot of chapters in books. So try not to do that all the time. You could do foreshadowing instead, and that's just, you know what foreshadowing is, right? Yeah, so you're just adding a touch of intrigue, and that's still engaging the reader. It's just not as dramatic, okay? And then there's one other thing that you can do. Time it right. So often what authors do, there'll be like some action, some drama, and then they'll, that's all tidied up, it got sorted, and then the character, bye then. All right, see ya. Put the phone down or something, Well, you don't need that little, you want to tie up the loose ends, but you don't need to do that. All right, so just remove all the less exciting details, and the reader will be fine. They'll know that they put the phone down, okay? All right, what is next? Make it look professional. So some formatting issues. And this goes for whether you're traditionally publishing or self-publishing, because even if you want to send your book in, in fact, all of these things do, because if you want to send your book into a traditional publisher, they're not really going to want to look at it unless it is presented well. So formatting is good too. So in this case, indent the first line of your paragraphs, except for the first line in a new chapter. And the text should also, I haven't put this on here, but the text should also be justified on both sides, yeah? So that's justified, left justified, right,
There you go.
justified.
I like that. It's like you're directing a plane about where to go.
I used to do that. And to do the indents, use two things you can do. Either use the built-in styles in Word, which are on the Home tab. And if you set up all your styles with that, that's perfect. Because then when you convert it to your PDF, it will all be lovely. You could also use, the slide rule at the top in Word. You can also use that to indent the first line. But please do not use tabs. Do not use tabs.
There's a little, little paragraph signal. If you're in Word,
yes,
there's a little button that's the hidden character button, which I love. And if you've never seen it before, turn it on and look at it. It shows you all the different types of.
And it's got a name, and I can't think of it.
I can't remember. I think it's.
What says it? How can I?
I can't remember what it's called. I just call it the hidden character.
I don't know what it was. The word home tab.
Yeah.
So,
shall I show her?
Yeah,
after?
sure.
No, I mean,
in lunch?
Are you? Yeah, I can show you right now.
Yeah.
So it's not this one.
No.
Yeah, don't use that.
One.
That's the bad button.
That's the bad button. So if you go to paragraph.
It's useful in some ways, but when you're formatting your book, you don't want to use it because it won't keep things in the right alignment when you go to transfer it to format it for a book style. And if you're self-publishing, you have to format
once you do
it.
it in one document in your
I don't know exactly, but I know you have to format it using a program, and if it's all tabbed, it's not gonna. It's gonna look a mess. So.
Okay. So I
and
just
then sending it to a publisher. I mean, they'll sort it all out for you, but.
But
But I put something.
What do you mean do not use tabs? You mean you just format it to indent?
Yes.
Oh, yeah. So how about that way she doesn't have to get out of the presentation right now, but during lunch I can show you what all of that looks like up there, because it would it's just going to take some finagling.
Okay.
But yeah, I'll definitely show you guys.
Part of my story, I have a story within a story. So when I get to the second part, I indent. I don't indent. It's offset.
Oh yeah, that's fine.
So you're saying use a style to set that up?
Yes. Yeah, actually yes. For any kind of differences in formatting, for headings, for chapter headings, for everything, you can set it all up in the styles section in Word. Yeah. And then it's really makes it so much better and consistent. And then if they're all set up in styles, you can have the navigation panel open, pane, that's it, open, and then you can actually just see all of your chapters listed and you can jump to them as you need to. It's really kind of handy.
Yeah. I have my current novel set up in Word, so it'll be helpful to see.
Yeah. Okay.
It's really handy.
All right. Who knew the formatting one would be the
I know,
one to
formatting
get
is a
you?
thing, y'all. Like,
Okay, so nowadays this one probably isn't quite so relevant for most of us, I think. But like in the days of the typewriter,
the double space
the
after
doubles
the
you had to
period.
double space after period, and and nowadays you don't. So if you have any double spaces, please do get rid of them, and you can use the find and replace function
I love that part about it.
in the home tab.
Oh, Scrivener folks, there is a thing in Scrivener that you click a button and it will remove it for you. It's so lovely. I was like, oh my gosh, this is a thing. I was so excited. Sorry, I have to.
This doesn't work, do it automatically?
No.
Period?
Oh no, but yeah, no.
No,
Yeah,
Word's
you
not
can
that
you can
fun.
search for the two space if you're just in Word and you're not in anything else. Then you just you can do search for two and then the replace option put one and you can just replace them all in one go. Okay, exclamation marks. I used to write so many exclamation marks in just my emails, but not so much anymore. So use them sparingly throughout your book, if at all. If you have too many, look, stop versus stop. This one has impact on its own. You don't need to have stop. They're both doing the same thing. And if you keep having too many and you keep using exclamation marks, then they're going to overwhelm the reader. And it makes them have they read an exclamation mark, there's a kind of energy that they have to bring to the reading. And if they have to do that all the way through, then they're just going to be like this the whole time, and then they'll get really, really tired, and they'll probably put your book down and not pick it up for a while, or if it's at the end. So, yeah. This, I think, is actually a generous recommendation of no more than one per paragraph as a maximum. I think there shouldn't even be one per page. There shouldn't, and even, maybe not even one per book. But you will have books that have none in it. So yeah, there you go. All books don't even contain one. A lot of these tips, you'll see the credit at the bottom were from my friend Amanda Waller. She's a fiction editor, so she shared these tips. So.
The idea behind that, though, right, is to make sure that your words are strong enough to carry the exclamation point.
Yeah, I mean, they should be, ideally, yes. Yeah, but it's also just because you're going to wear out the reader as well, and it loses impact. It's just everything's up there, everything's exciting, then nothing's exciting, is it? So, so yeah. Never two together, except on that sentence. All right, characters. We're nearly there, folks. So a couple of things to look out for when you're checking your characters' names. You may have already done this. I'm not sure if that comes up earlier, but it's a good time to double check. Choose distinct names. So don't give similar names. So for example, Shannon and Sharon. People are going to forget who's who. All right, or Jack and Jock. Oh, I went too fast. And don't have more than one character with the same name, unless it's deliberate, unless it's for some reason that it's going to, be part of the storyline, and then that's okay. And also, if you're creating unique names, try and make them readable. So if you have a name like someone's called ZQPX, ZQPX, how do you say that? And even though readers are probably reading in their head, they've got a head voice, and so what do you do? I don't know. And of course, lots of books nowadays are on Audible. So what would your narrator do? So try
to get a pronunciation guide just to
yeah, right. You'd have to give some kind of indication of how to say it if you use something like that.
Maybe
Another formatting treasure.
Maybe the character explains it at one point because they always have to explain it, and it could be part of the thing.
It could be, yeah. I mean, it could be. You could do that. I mean, it might stand for something that, someone's changed their name to something and they now use initialisms. So yeah, as long as you describe that and say, so most people call me this or something, that's fine. Yeah.
I don't know where I picked this up, but I thought maybe especially for kids' books that a character might have a name, or any book. A character would have a name that helps you relate what he does or what he is to his name, so that you remember him, especially when there's a large cast. So I thought, I have one character who's a sheep shearer, and I call him Mr. Cutters. So,
Oh, I love that.
and one of my critique readers says, "Is that really his name?" And I thought, well, doesn't that work?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, well, J.K. Rowling does it a lot. I remember that first time I read through it, I'm like, oh, well, all of these names match with the descriptions of the people, so.
Yeah, I think that's effective, especially in children's books,
Yeah.
definitely. Yeah. I mean, Harry Potter is kind of for young adults, isn't it? I mean, I know it's
Well, I think
popular
it
among
like
adults, but-
grew, the audience changed as
Yeah.
it
When I started middle grade. we
Yeah.
screwed up.
Yeah, it definitely did, yeah.
Okay, so another tip for formatting is to use page breaks before chapters, okay? Do you know how to do a page break? Go on then.
Insert page break.
Control insert.
Don't just hit the return key. So you know that much. On a PC, I don't know about Apple, I'm sorry.
It's command.
You can do, it's command return? Oh, okay, so it's command return instead of control return, as it would be on the PC.
I just hit insert page break.
Well, I mean, there's that option
Well,
too.
there's also
but this
different
is quick.
types of page breaks too, though.
Sorry?
There are different types of page breaks too. So.
Oh,
Yeah, but this is the one that's the regular version.
yes, this is the one you want so that the chapters all stay starting on a new page. Okay. Oh, that's kind of cut off, isn't it? All right. Yeah, I've lost some of that. I'll have to. Actually, you know what? Maybe. Why has that come up like
I
that?
don't know.
Oh, okay, never mind. So the final one that I'm going to give to you, and this is the best tip that you can do, is to read it aloud. Apart from letting it rest and making every word count. Read it aloud, okay? And you will
That's
pick
for the
up.
hat, so that it's next to your ears. There we go. Sorry.
Exactly. So these will pick up, when you read it aloud, it will pick up all of these things. Spelling mistakes, words that are similar but not quite right, missing full stops or periods, repeated words, missing words, overly long sentences, dense paragraphs, words and phrases that you're a little too keen on. That is a thing. Consecutive sentences that start or end with the same word. So just by reading it aloud, you can pick up on so many errors or issues that you need to address. And if you don't want to read it out loud, you can use the read aloud function, which is really fun. I mean, it's a bit of a computer voice, but it's really helpful. And I use that when I'm doing my proofreading because I can listen to one whilst checking the other along with it. So that's pretty helpful. Okay, right, we have a bit of time to do your editing practice. Dun, dun, dun. It's not a test.
Oh, I thought we were doing this group.
Well, you can talk about it together.
It's
not a test.
We just read
You're
it.
going to have to read it first anyway. Oh, and by the way, the author is ChatGPT.
Perfect.
So just, ignore the fact that it's a...
Wait, can I have it? So we let it rest.
ChatGPT has rested. You are now a copy editor.
We need some.
Oh, did I not give you one?
No, I thought I was waiting and then you went there. And
Oh, God, I'm
sorry. It's okay.
I need one too. I'm gonna play
Thank
one.
you.
Play along.
I'm gonna play.
Go on then.
I even got my
My
reading
shoelace
glasses
is undone. I'll do that out whilst you're reading.
So what do you want us to do?
So I want you to use the list of things that I gave you. I can't find it now. The self-editing tips list. All the things I've been through. The ones that I said, this one's coming up. I don't think I said it for all of them. that
You
are
will
in
be
there.
tested on this.
Yeah. You got to find those errors if you can, or any other errors that you might find is fine too.
So you're saying everything on this list?
No, not everything.
No.
There are 10. There are 10 errors that I inserted. Okay.
So can you just give us?
I can
those
tell
two?
you. Do you want me to tell you which ones are in there? Okay. And then it will. Yeah, because we don't have an awful lot of time. So you're going to look for a dialogue tag mistake. Do you want to like circle the number of the one on the list or something so you've got a, you can remember? Strong verb mistake, or could be made stronger. You've got removing redundancy one. You've got an unnecessary timeline nudge. You've got evocative, an action beat, a contraction, tentative language, too much description. Make it look professional. How many is that one? 11, sorry, there's 11, and exclamation marks. That's the easy one. Sorry, there's 11. I got a bit carried away.
Could you go over that again?
2, 4, 6,
Who do we?
10, 11, 13, 16, 17, 19, 21.
4, 6, 8.
Yeah, not yet. Not Okay. You are allowed to talk to each other as well. It's not like
Oh, we get to compare notes?
you can compare if you want. Yeah. How's it going?
Sorry.
Is it easy? Difficult? Oh, okay.
I found some.
You found some?
Mhm.
Good. Some are easier than others, definitely. Should we go through them? See what you've got? Because it's pushing into lunchtime and we don't want to. We must be getting a bit hungry, right? So,
Yes.
okay, what have you got? Anything that you want to point out before I show you? Yeah, go on.
How many times does ChatGPT guys tell us the ball is red?
I was wondering how.
That's actually a good point because when I was reading through, I was like, yeah, it's crimson or whatever, it's red, it's
I never know a whole paragraph.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, so yes. So too much description there then. No,
Mhm.
yeah, that's good. That wasn't the one I put in, but that's just ChatGPT for you.
I did find the dialogue tag one where she smiled something.
Yep. So you can't smile. Yep, that's excellent. Yeah. Can't smile a word.
The strong verb one,
Yeah.
when it says he frowned, looking at the ball closely.
Yes.
Yes.
What could you change it
I
to?
changed it to examining the ball.
Perfect. Yeah. That's really good. Yeah. Anything else you find?
And it's also supposed to be an action beat, not a dialogue tag.
Yes, that same place. That was naughty,
Oh,
wasn't
yes.
it? I put it in the same place. So yes, that should be a period, not a comma, because it's an action beat. Correct. Yes.
There's just a lot of words, like sentences that they mean the same thing. But that's like everywhere.
Well, yeah, ChatGPT is a little bit like that. Yeah. So, is there a particular area where you're finding that?
Mostly the second paragraph that I completely took off.
You're like, cut this whole thing.
I
right
just
here.
put it next one.
Yeah. So, in actual fact, you could just literally cut all from the attic was a realm up until a moth-eaten armchair. You could cut all of that and just have, amidst dusty trinkets and forgotten treasures, a ball stood out like a beacon. And that's fine, really. Okay, well spotted, yeah.
Indents. There's no indents.
Yes!
Oh.
That was a cheeky one because I didn't actually have that one in as a purposeful one. I had that one as a bonus point.
Cool star.
There were formatting bonus points, so I was going to do those after, but you got it already.
yeah.
So yeah, anything else? Yes, Marley.
In the fifth paragraph, Lily says, I'm not sure yet, Sam. She doesn't need to say his name.
Yep, vocative, repeated, doesn't need to be done. Yeah, exactly.
And the exclamation
The
point.
sentence right after that where it says turning the ball over in her hands, you don't need in her hands.
Ooh.
Yeah. And the same thing.
I didn't put that one in. That's
Oh,
good.
okay.
Yeah.
And Lily nodded her head.
Though, actually, let's look at that one because turning the ball over in her hands, she could be turning it over, could be doing it with her foot, maybe.
Oh, she could.
Or do
But
you
I
think?
think the readers are smart enough to know that she's not.
Yeah.
She's not playing soccer at this point,
Right.
or football.
Okay. Good point. Yeah.
Well,
Yes.
I took off the fourth paragraph because she's in the attic and she says, look at this, and then he follows her into the attic and peers over her shoulder.
Yeah. So the and then.
I took off Sam followed her into the attic.
Oh, really? Oh, because she
She's
was
in the
already in the
attic.
attic.
So why would he just randomly come in after, like they're talking?
Ah. Yeah, that's actually a really good point. Yeah, I didn't put that one in, but yeah, that's really good. And the action of the and then is not needed either. So you could just say, if you wanted to
That's why
say,
he peered over.
yeah, so just and pick, exactly, yeah. Perfect, unnecessary time nudge, but also too much information. I agree. Anything else? Yes.
In the second paragraph, like at the bottom,
Yeah.
it says on top of the stack of weathered books that lean, take the that out of there.
Which bit, sorry?
On top of the stack of weathered books that lean for figures of speech.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's all too much description, isn't it? Yeah, we don't need all of that. All right, anything on the second page?
I took out the word wise, so it said, sought the wisdom of wise elders.
Ah, yes. You know, I tested this on my boyfriend, and he picked up on that one. And I was like, yes, because why you don't need both wise and wisdom, do you? So yeah, nice. I didn't put that one in there, but yeah, good one.
I took up challenges, because it's challenges and obstacles in that same paragraph.
Oh yeah,
It means the same.
yeah. Don't need to do that. I didn't put that one in, but yes, that's a good one.
I don't know if this is right, but I don't love the use of the semicolon in the second paragraph. I'm not sure that that's like, it could be a full sentence.
On the second page.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the finally paragraph.
Yeah, so.
Oh.
Not just a thing, it was a vessel terms, like that seems like it's not, shouldn't be two separate sentences.
Oh, no, it's fine. You can use a semicolon there, or you can separate it into two sentences. Usually, if there's a semicolon, you could just put it into two sentences. So that is really a style choice, whether people want to use semicolons or not most of the time. So, as an author, you get to choose whether you want that. Yeah. All right, so I'll quickly go through on here. So this whole, just to clarify, this whole chunk could be taken out, and we'll talk more about the comments later, this afternoon. But this is what a copy editor would do. So they would highlight bits and write comments. So this is what it looks like if you get your work back from a copy editor. Oh gosh, sorry. And then there's smiled. We got what? Nobody got these?
I said the exclamation.
Oh, you did? Oh, sorry. And there's the and then, which I took out, and the sound. So we got all of those. Next bit was we got this and we got that. Excellent. Wow. Didn't do many on that one. And then the last bit, nodded her head. Did you get that? And there's this one as well. Went to make. So I would have changed that to a stronger.
I am so
That's
bad about
tentative.
doing that.
Yeah, I've just been working on a book where everything was. She started to say everything, and it was like she did finish all of her sentences. So can we just put said or say?
Yeah. Can I ask a question? On the first paragraph, I wasn't sure, because it says that the ball was in the hands of a child named Lily. Is it okay that it says that it's a child named Lily? Because you said that it just sometimes they just put things that the readers already know. But is it okay because it's a narrator?
Yeah, and we don't know Lily yet, do we?
Yeah.
So I think that's fine at that point because it's introducing. Don't forget this is ChatGPT as well, so it might not want to necessarily do it that way. You could do a completely different explanation of who Lily is, and yeah.
Plus you're switching.
But that's okay. It's not, you're introducing her initially, aren't you? So that's okay.
So when you're introducing them, even in a dialogue, it's okay to say like wife or child.
Oh, in dialogue, no, I wouldn't do that. Unless it was like, this is my wife. You could say, hey, if they were having a conversation and saying, this is my wife, Lily. Yeah. Yeah.
Especially if it's the first time.
Nice to meet you. Yeah, how are you doing? Yeah, so you could do that in dialogue, yeah. Yeah, it really depends on the situation. This is the problem with copy editors. We'll always be like, it depends.
I also wondered, I took off quaint and little because it said quaint little town.
I did too.
Oh, really?
And
Yeah.
It also said there was a peculiar,
A peculiar little red ball.
yeah, red ball. And the next sentence said it wasn't just any ordinary ball. It was a vibrant crimson. I took off that one.
And you know what else? Usually, yeah, these are all good points because you know what else? That you've got little and little stacked on top of each other, which you don't really want to do. So yeah, just taking one of those out, or yeah, definitely tidying up the description would be good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I missed it.
Yeah. So that's gives you an idea then of what to do when you're doing your own books and what I do. So
The adverbs is hard for like my own writing.
yeah, to make the stronger verbs.
Yeah, because I don't identify them in my own writing.
Mhm.
So it's hard.
It is.
I have to put on a list.
Oh, the emotional thesaurus.
Oh, I wanted to
Thesauruses?
find
Or
That's right. That's
thesauruses?
so
What is it?
good.
Yeah.
Yeah, emotional
you guys know.
thesaurus.
Those are super helpful too.
I bought the body language one because I kept like writing and making faces and I was trying to describe the face that I was making and I just put it. So
Yeah.
that's all I
That's
really
really good because you've got all of the descriptions of how when it's coming from the character and when it's being observed. So you yeah, it's really helpful. A lot of editors use those. So, all right, well that's it. We've got lunch now. Yay! So thank you very much.
Yeah.